morning. It's Thursday morning, August 27th. Let's continue to remember the folks in, especially the Louisiana area, right on the coast, Cameron, Lake Charles, other places where they're just really devastated by Laura that came in as a strong Category 4 storm and just did a tremendous amount of damage. Just pray for humility before the power of God. It's such awesome strength that he displays in these storms. I'm going to continue looking at Proverbs 3 about wisdom. You recall that the chapter 3 starts off with this address where Solomon is imploring his son to keep his father's commands, the commands of God he's giving him close, and to guard them with his heart, to make them close. And so the first 12 verses, he gives that admonition and encourages his son to do that. But then the second portion of chapter 3, verses 13 to 35, expand on that. And they talk about specifically the value of wisdom and reinforce those opening words of chapter 3. Again, I'm reading from Bruce Walke's translation of that, and then I'll read from a more familiar translation right after that. Blessed is the human being who finds wisdom, the human being who obtains understanding. For the profit she gives is better than the profit of silver, and her revenue than gold. She is more precious than corals. All desirable things cannot compare with her. And perhaps a translation you're more familiar with. Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding. For she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies, or other translations, jewels. Nothing you desire can compare with her. So this is telling us about why wisdom is a big deal. Remember, wisdom is the application of God's truth to life. It's not a particularly intellectual skill. It's a skill of the heart. It's a skill of loving God to the point where you really buy into what Moses is teaching us in Deuteronomy 6. You make these things precious on your heart, and you take them and then impress them on to the lives of your children and to others. And wisdom is that skill of taking the truth of God, which you have made your own precious truth, valued at more than fine jewelry, and taken that and put it into action. So wisdom is not specifically a category of commands or rights and wrongs. It's a category and action of loving God and the skill of taking God's truth and meshing it into life. So that's what wisdom is. That's why it's so valuable to us. So therefore, we get the argument from Solomon, blessed is the person who finds wisdom. It's everything that we're to be about. And then it continues with the reasons. She is more profitable than silver, better returns than gold. So you've got the gold and silver markets. You've got precious metals markets. And those things were valuable then, they're valuable now. What Solomon is saying, wisdom, that is the application of truth to life, is more valuable than any human possession. Verse 15 says she is more precious than corals. That's Walke's translation. Most of your translations will say something along the lines of she is more precious than rubies or jewels. But actually corals is what is in the Hebrew and is unique to that time in terms of that particular area where there's precious colors in certain corals that had a red color to them. That's why you get the ruby translation sometimes. But corals is actually what they were valuing, so that they were things that were just another precious, beautiful piece of jewelry. And so she's more precious than something that was hard to acquire, a beautiful stone, or in this case, the coral. And Walke's translation, all desirable things cannot compare with her. Nothing you desire can compare with her. That's the truth about wisdom. You see, if I find other things more desirable to me than the application of God's truth to my life, then I'm not guarding my heart, and my heart is left unguarded. It's a two-way street. If I don't guard my heart, that's the one side of it. The flip side of that then is, yeah, my heart's unguarded. There's no neutral. I'm either protecting my heart with God's truth and with things which will keep my mind straight in terms of how the world operates, or I'm opening the door and telling the enemy, come on in, open season, here's a big target, shoot at me. When we are filled with anxiety and worry, we are losing sight of the person of God. That's what we learned earlier in chapter 3. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Because if you are, it will eat your gut alive. That's what we learned in verses 5 through 8 of chapter 3. So what we're being encouraged to hear is to value wisdom. And if I value it properly, then I will be guarding my heart with it. Because if I don't guard my heart, I'm leaving my heart, my inner self, wide open to all kinds of emotional havoc. So that's why Solomon is saying, nothing you desire can compare with the beauty of getting wisdom, applying God's truth to your life. And that's the thought for this morning. And we'll be back tonight. Lord bless. Bye-bye.